To our next guest, Whole Foods CEO John Mackey, just opening up a new store in Brooklyn, part of a massive expansion plan. John Mackey, welcome to the program.
Thanks, good to be here.
You know a thing or two about getting very big operations off and running from the ground floor up. Give us a game plan.
Well, it takes a long time. We've been building Whole Foods for 35 years, so it's not something you can just roll out at scale and expect it to be successful.
But they had 3 years as a build-up to the launch of the website. Isn't that long enough to get things going properly?
Apparently not.
What do you think of Obamacare? Because I'm going to interrupt for a second. You're a huge employer. I don't know how many thousand employees you've got, but you've got a lot of employees.
Yeah, got over 80,000 now.
80,000 employees. I don't know whether you offer them health care or not, but how's Obamacare going to hit you? For the better or worse, how does it affect you?
It's raising our costs. It's raising, and we're self-insured, so we pay the health care costs for our team members. And of course, Obamacare is adding a bunch of new mandates, although they've, of course, excused employers for 1 more year before they have to comply to it. But we'll have to cover things that are expensive, that we may not want to cover, our team members may not want to have covered. That will raise cost. And that will either ultimately come out of it'll depress wage increases, or we'll have to pass those costs on to our team members.
Does that mean passing along the cost in terms of, say, a higher deductible, for example?
In our case, it probably will mean maybe a little bit higher percentage of part-time workers. There's an escape clause. If somebody works less than 30 hours, you don't have to provide health insurance for them. That creates the wrong incentives for employers. That creates an incentive to have fewer full-time workers and more part-time workers. If all of our competitors are going in that direction, then we'll probably have that same kind of incentive to do the same thing.
That's a very big deal for the economy as a whole. A lot of the new jobs being created are now part-time jobs.
Yes, exactly.
To avoid what's coming down the pike from Obamacare. And you have to do the same thing.
Yes, our company's traditionally been about 75% full-time and 25% part-time, which is fairly unusual in retail, which is made up a lot of part-timers. We're moving out to 30% this year, and if our costs keep going up, I expect probably that percentage will continue to increase for part-timers and decrease for full-timers.
Didn't you write your own version of healthcare reform? I think you put it forward in a formal proposal about 4 or 5 years ago. You did?
At the time, back in 2009, President Obama was asking for suggestions. Right. This is before we had the Affordable Care Act didn't exist. And so I wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal that discussed suggestions for what we could do. Unfortunately, none of those suggestions have been implemented.
Did it include tort reform?
Yes, it did.
That was a big part of it, wasn't it?
Tort reform is not that makes a difference because malpractice insurance is expensive and those costs get passed on. I think the main problem that we had is oftentimes the previous healthcare system was held up as free market or capitalism when it was already very highly regulated. It didn't allow competition, for example, of insurers across state lines. So you didn't really the exchanges, in a sense, are a good idea. That's one of the reforms of Obamacare I like, because it's at least consolidating insurers.
But it's the mandates that get in the way.
The mandates mean that there's not that much competition between plans. Instead, we ought to let the marketplace work, let employers and employees or individuals and insurance companies come to terms. And we do that in car insurance, we do that in life insurance, we can do that in health insurance as well. Nothing wrong with perhaps subsidizing the poorest consumers. I'm not saying that poor people or old people should be denied insurance, but I don't think there's good reason for the government to take over the entire healthcare system.
You sound like a libertarian.
I've been accused of that more than once.
No, not accused. I mean, you're a moderate libertarian with some caveats.
I tend to, what I am is I'm a conscious capitalist. I believe in capitalism.
Okay.
I believe free markets are the best way to organize society, and any system that supports capitalism I'm in favor of.
Oh, I'd give you another half hour if you wanted. John Mackey, Whole Foods, thank you very much indeed, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When military veterans lose and